is not that toxic than it was in the early days. And it's a potent drug regime. That means it kills almost everything.
I play around with treatment interruption because I think the drugs are toxic. And if I do the drugs continuously without interruption, I think that they'll have a cumulative damage.
In the years that we've been using the cocktail, we've found that there are lots of side effects.
In South Africa, I spoke to a couple of pharmacists specializing in HIV treatment.
How often do you see side effects in patients?
Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah, all the time.
Almost all the time.
We saw the lipodystrophy, the buffalo humps at the back of the neck, then the lipoatrophy, which is the loss of fat in the face and the arms, giving people a very gaunt look.
The risk of heart attack seems to be increased in people on these drugs.
With what we have now, the side effects eventually are going to outweigh the benefits.
So patients really do better for the short term, but in the long term, they die also.
In 1994, Audrey Serrano tested HIV positive. While initially healthy, she was prescribed AIDS drugs which nearly killed her and left her scarred for life. In December 2007, after multiple negative tests, she was awarded $2.5 million in damages.
Some people are very fortunate. They don't have these side effects, but many people do. So prolonged treatment is impossible.
I know people that are like horses, have no impact with some drugs, no side effects, and somebody else falls apart.
The new generation of antiretroviral drugs are less toxic. They can be more tolerated. But for how long? I agree. We cannot give a treatment for life. It's not like insulin, you know, it's something which is toxic.
Has a patient ever died from the side effects?
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
AIDS drugs are all classified as black box drugs. A black box drug is the most severe warning that our FDA will put on a product. It means you could die taking this because other people have died taking this.
My sister Joyce was my best friend. She's a great mom and just a very lively person.
In 2003, Joyce found out she was pregnant with a second child. She was offered an HIV test as standard prenatal care by her obstetrician.
She called me at work and she was like, I got something to tell you. And I was like, well, what is it? She said, I'm HIV positive. So I took a deep breath. I said, well, it's not the end of the world. And she said, well, Nell, I met this doctor today and he's a specialist. And he says, is there some medicines I can take that'll keep my baby from being HIV positive?
Nevirapine. Warning, severe life-threatening skin reactions, including fatal cases.
One morning, she was covered in these welts and this rash. It was all over her face. It was all over her chest, all over her arms, her hands.
When they're talking about a rash that can kill you, they're talking about a drug that targets the actively replicating cells in your dermis, in your mucosal layers, in your intestine, and stops them from working. And what happens? Goodbye skin.
I would never take them. I don't have a problem with other people taking them, but I, as Griselda Kananda personally, looking at the side effects that they come with, looking at the toxins that they present in my body, not now, not ever.
I have patients tested in 1985. They were all advised to take treatment, but they declined the treatment for different reasons. Because they didn't want to take toxic drugs because they were feeling well at that time.
And how are they doing today?
They're still living.
Healthy?
Yeah.
Once we came to the conclusion that this was the drug that was causing this problem, irregardless of what the HIV was going to do, she was going to come off the drug no matter what.
If taking her off the drugs meant that she could sleep through the night and be happy for 6 months,
that would be worth it rather than live in agony for 2 years or 12 months.
You hear a lot of doctors, you hear a lot of educators in AIDS, you hear a lot of people talk about it is probably the drugs that are going to kill us before the disease does.
What are the drugs doing to the bodies? They're putting the bodies into coffins.
Before my sister started taking the drugs, she was healthy. After she started the drugs, she developed an allergic reaction, which made her look like a patient with full-blown AIDS. She was admitted to the hospital. She continued to spiral down. And within 37 days from her first date of taking the medicine, she was gone.
When news of Joyce's death reached the NIH, emails were exchanged between the director of the AIDS division and an ethics and safety officer. Ed, there was fulminant liver failure resulting in the death on this trial last week. Ouch. Not much we can do about dumb docs.
They're cynical enough to introduce drugs that they know will have toxic effects and will carry a certain mortality, and they know that the life of the drug before this mortality becomes too obvious to ignore is, say, 2 or 3 years, and they work out what the sales are going to be in those 2 or 3 years, and then they know they're going to have to reduce the dose.
Joyce has 2 sons. Jamal he's in his senior year of high school this year. Sterling will be 4 years old. And in my mind, they were robbed of their mother.
If someone's going to be giving me a diagnosis of certain death in 5 to 7 years, I want scientific proof. This isn't a religion.
My interest in questioning and breaking and exploring does HIV cause AIDS is an instinct to liberate people from a death sentence that isn't theirs to carry.
After we took Lindsay off AZT, her weight did go up.
Within a couple of days, the leg cramps went away.
And her physical body seemed to be doing pretty well, but it was like she was disturbed. She was agitated very easily.
Her lifespan changed all the time after she got to be 2 years old, and then she'd only live to be 5.
When she got to be a little older, then they said, oh, she might live to be 7.
Yep. But definitely wouldn't live into double digits, and that's just was our life then.
Although Lindsay was on AZT for 22 months, she made a full recovery from the pernicious side effects. Lindsay will be 19 in October of 2009.
Because it's been surrounded from day one with so much emotion, so much fear, so much psychology, so much drama, very few people are capable of looking at AIDS logically.
We can be exposed to HIV many times without being chronically infected. Our immune system could get rid of the virus within a few weeks if you have a good immune system.
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV.
Yes.
If you take a poor African who's been infected and you build up their immune system, is it possible for them to also naturally get rid of it?
I would think so.
It's very easy to get people to think the right thing if you get the right on the tablet the first time. But once something's on the tablet and you gotta erase it and put something else, it's very hard to get people to think differently.
The victims of HIV and the dedicated professionals combating it deserve our sympathy, compassion, and respect. However, at journey's end, I find myself perplexed, bewildered at times with an overall feeling of dismay and sadness. I found a research community in disarray over the most fundamental understanding of HIV, all the while presenting a monolithic public posture of authority and certainty. Bluntly stated, we have tests that prove nothing, remedies that kill, and statistics manipulated to the point of absurdity. 90% of global HIV corresponds to areas of great poverty and squalor. Ironically, while we may have been pursuing a phantom killer, a shape-shifting assassin,
Perhaps the real enemy has been hiding in plain view, clear as day, and as old as time.
We can be exposed to HIV many times without being chronically infected. Our immune system will get rid of virus within a few weeks if you have a good immune system.
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV.
Yes.
How can we say that HIV is the cause of AIDS when we don't know, based on current tests, whether or not anybody diagnosed positive actually has HIV?
Some people are very fortunate they don't have these side effects, but many people do. So prolonged treatment is impossible.
Called CD4 helper T cells.
What the fuck's the immune response? What's it in there?
It fuses its membrane.
What does he mean? But then no cofactor. Where is he coming from? There's cofactors for everything.
To the membrane of the cell. And then it
there, it's how cell virus grows and they form its cells. Gallo isn't going to change that. He's put out in the circulation, finds other CD4 cells to infect.
There is an ongoing battle. Cells die. The body will replace those cells that die. But there's not an infinite capacity to do that.
Cofactors are important.
This
really
battle between HIV
how people get ill, why they get ill.
What is asked of an AIDS journalist is to deny an existing reality, which is a strong, growing body of dissent on a scientific question.